And again, we heard all the evidence we heard on mental health is the growing crisis in mental health. Mental health is facing a differentially heavy cut as a result of the latest changes being proposed by NHS England. Mental health budgets in the last 2-3 years have already been cut in actual terms, actual less money now than 2 years ago, 3 years ago. This is a scandal. We've got a desperate shortage of mental health beds across London. We've got people being referred hundreds of miles for mental health treatment, which makes it all the more difficult to bring them back again and to give them any chance of resuming normal life. So this is really important as well, and we take that up in the report. But the fundamental central thing is we can't solve any of these if we stick with the Tory spending limits. It can't be done. It can't be done. Because at the moment we're in the middle of a spending freeze that's lasted since 2010. George Osborne's already outlined plans which would take that up to 2021. Be 10 years standstill NHS budget with increased costs, increased pressures all the time every year. And if you bear in mind, the only reason they've lasted this long with the policy they've adopted of this unprecedented spending freeze, the meanest funding period ever in the history of the NHS, the only reason they got away with it so far is because Labour put in massive funds in the 2000s. From 2000 to 2010, every year Labour put above inflation increases in and raised the actual share of national wealth spent on health on the NHS. If they hadn't done that, we would already be in a crisis. If they'd had a freeze since 2000, instead of a £102 billion budget in the NHS, we'd now have a budget of £75 billion instead. 30 billion less to spend, about a third less. Okay? Just imagine we continue a freeze now for 10 years instead of any increases. It's unthinkable. All the stresses, all the strains we've just been hearing about on A&Es and everything, you know, all of these will get infinitely worse. Now, this raises a particular point, because I think many people in this room will know that if we elect a Tory government, the NHS is dead anyway. But if we elect a Labour government and they stick to these Tory spending limits, they will be the government carrying the can for this. So we're saying they have to change these policies. Absolutely essential. You cannot build an NHS without resources. The Labour Party in 2000 got it right with the funding. They got other things wrong in my opinion, but they got it right with the funding. They got it right with the funding. They put the money in. They made massive changes for the better in the NHS. If they don't get it right with the funding in 2015, we will be facing a disaster, and Labour will probably put itself in a position it can never get elected again, because they will preside over the meltdown of the NHS in that period if they don't change that funding. So instead of doing a last-minute U-turn when they find out it's already in a desperate state, why don't they say now and challenge the Tories on this? You have to fund the NHS, you have to make it a service that people deserve. Fund the NHS. Keep it all in one piece and keep it public. And People's Inquiry will be going out now to campaign in all the London bodies. We will be going back to all the councils and the other organisations that get sent speakers along. We'll be visiting you, Julian, and Ealing. And we'll be looking for support to actually take this right into the Labour movement, into the Labour Party. Any other political party wants to sign up for it, they're welcome. Okay? This is not party exclusive. We'll lobby anybody, okay? We don't think we stand much chance with some of them, but it's absolutely important that we wage this fight, because without the money, we don't have an NHS. Absolutely central. I probably didn't take the People's Inquiry to find that out, but we have reinforced it with the evidence of what's around us and the evidence that we've heard from the economists that gave us evidence as well. So we have to take that one on. So I hope that there's plenty of material there. United produced a short broadsheet version of the inquiry.